You know what? Australia has a big problem, and it's in the form of a marketeer and a fossil fuel puppet who have no clue on how to lead, govern and progress this great nation of ours to cleaner and greener ways. Yesterday, the federal government released an update to its garbage discussion paper, the Future Fuel and Vehicle Strategy. Not a huge upgrade, no. On this version that's been updated, well, in the last 32 months, a grand total of I think 3 times. What's changed? Just the title and something around charges. So let's delve into this special. Kicking off this episode is the Minister for Emission Reduction and Energy, Angus Taylor. Over to you, mate.
Angus, a huge day here at Toyota.
It sure is. $250 million now committed to low emission vehicles. And of course, it's all about making sure people can choose the vehicle they want as new technologies come on board. We see hydrogen vehicles here, battery electric vehicles, hybrids, and we're seeing remarkable purchases of hybrids across Australia. We want to help Australians make that choice, and that means having the refuelling, the information, the charging stations at home, at work, and publicly to allow them to make that choice. That's what this strategy is all about.
With funding now at $250 million, up from $71.9 million, for more public electric vehicle charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure, because there are like so many hydrogen fuel vehicles out there, aren't there? See the left side of this chart? That's battery electric vehicles, now more than 10 million in number. To the right, that's fuel cell vehicles, sold not since 2014 as in this chart, but since they were first entered production more than 20 years ago, just a bit over 30,000 of them. 30,000 of them! Okay. We have Angus looking like he's been technologically agnostic. That's like not batting for one team or the other. Yet, he's there at Toyota spruiking a technology that will help save our planet from burning up, supposedly. But when hydrogen in Australia is mainly produced from fossil fuels, which in turn adds more CO2 to our fragile ecosystem and traps even more heat in our globe, you get the idea that Angus and Morrison, who are actually really fond of fossil fuels, they make out that they're actually doing something about our future fuel security and giving consumers choice on vehicles. But in reality, no, they're doing the exact opposite. Just this year alone, they've thrown more than $95 million at securing future fuel supplies in Australia, which are actually located over in the US, giving voters the false impression that things are secure and assured. No, no, they're not. We have like only 3 weeks of fuel in Australia. And if you want to get that stockpile from the United States, it's going to take you 3 to 4 weeks to get it from there. Now, did we learn nothing from the UK recently, where they had a shortage of delivery drivers and people panic purchased fuel, even though they didn't really need to? Do you think Australians will be the same? Yeah, mate. I don't need to go get any more fuel. I've got half a tank. I'll be good for at least another week. No, you're guaranteed the same thing will happen here, and that 3-week stockpile would soon be depleted. We're calling that this program, this electric vehicle incentives garbage, is only worth $250 million, which is chump change to the federal government. They've not only thrown more than $90 million at fuel security, but also $2.3 billion cash to keep these fuel refineries open. Can I just remind everybody in Australia about Holden GM and their sudden departure from our market? I could just foresee these companies saying, yeah, you know what, it's all just become way too hard and it's actually cheaper for us to shut this thing down. And the result will be food supplies will be in jeopardy, people will be out of work, and our economy will collapse. By supporting hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and not introducing like a petrol or diesel car ban, these Neanderthals, they're going to be keeping Australian motorists at the mercy of high Bowser prices and supplies at constant threat of disappearing. Instead of keeping fossil fuel interests going, they could have accelerated our transition to electric vehicles, because you know what we have plenty of? Sun, wind, hydro, battery storage. Heck, One day in September recently, renewable energy provided Australia with 61.4% of its electricity demand. Coal, gas, they're on the way out. These trends over time, that's gas quickly exiting the market. And that's Angus Taylor's favourite little energy, isn't it? And what did they do last year? They announced that they're going to build a $600 million gas plant that Australia nor the world actually needs. Coal, that's also down, now running around 60% of our energy mix. And once again, it seems that our bosses in charge get that if we're all to drive electric cars, and I'm being sarcastic here, we're going to need more energy. Sort of. Not really. But for today's exploration, yeah. So, they're supporting the exploration of 72 new coal projects and 44 new gas explorations, including throwing $224 million at the controversial Beetaloo Basin in the Northern Territory. This is their idea of a gas-fired recovery, and what they're supposedly doing for Australia's reducing our emissions here. But are they? No, they're doing the exact opposite. And you might be thinking, Chris, you're going off topic, mate. Or am I? These examples of this government's thinly veiled agenda to sell Australians out and the world with these carbon-spewing projects, they will result in nearly 1.7 billion tonnes of greenhouse gases being emitted every year. That's like equivalent to 5% of global industrial emissions. What did the UN's IPCC report and the International Energy Agency say about fossil fuel projects? That none, zero, nada, nothing should actually be built from today moving forwards. And what are these guys doing? Again, the exact opposite. So knowing that our fossil fuel loving polys are supporting the wrong technology and on the one hand throwing marketing lines like, we will meet it and we will beat it motto, here they are doing things like keeping polluting cars on the road and promoting technology that's more than 100 years old and burns things and use, well, perhaps in hybrids, a very small battery to do some of the journey on a pure electric mode. And then they're also throwing money at fuel cell vehicles that are not popular, that are expensive, and, well, let's just briefly explore that for a sec. I've discussed previously fuel cell vehicles and how hydrogen fuel is actually the fool's choice when it comes to most things. This chart has been doing the rounds of late, and it's actually very neat about explaining why hydrogen fuel is not that useful after all. At the bottom of the chart, you'll note that cars, trucks, trains, planes, local ferries, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are not very competitive. They are uncompetitive. That is, on a dollar and efficiency basis, they can't do the same number of kilometers compared to a pure battery electric vehicle. And recalling the refueling method by which motorists are tied, if you have a battery electric vehicle and you can plug in somewhere, you can refuel. That is to say, you have options of 1 million places you can charge your car right now in Australia. Do you think there's that many places to actually refuel your hydrogen fuel cell in Australia? No. So, recalling earlier how I spoke of those 30,000 hydrogen fuel cell vehicles sold worldwide in the last 2 decades? Why is that? Why aren't they popular? Because they're very expensive. They're very difficult to make. They cost even more to refuel. And worldwide, consumers have let the market know they don't want them. They actually want to get away from having to go to the petrol station once every week or fortnight. No, people get that they could actually refill their car with their own solar for free. So recalling earlier how fossil fuel companies are actually using reforming natural gas or maybe using coal gasification to create hydrogen, can you tell why Angus and Scotty are actually supporting hydrogen? Because the fossil fuel companies behind them supported them, giving them political donations to the tunes of millions of dollars per year, are actually vested. These guys want to keep in business by producing not green hydrogen, the stuff made from renewable energy, no, blue hydrogen by dirty gas and coal methods. So again, please do go check out this video. I did it early this year and it goes into a deeper dive on the very few positives that actually hydrogen has, but the very many negatives that it also has. So this, for fuck's sake, this future fuel strategy paper is Morrison and Angus showing the true spots. They don't want to tell consumers what technology to choose, favoring instead for market forces to decide for them. But you know what happens when a target isn't made or policy not properly formulated? The ones with money and lobbying capacity sway governments to keep the status quo, and consumers end up the poorer for it. What will we end up with? Petrol cars on our roads in 2030? You bet. Hybrid vehicles? You bet. Fuel cell vehicles? Nah, that horse is dead and definitely buried. Toyota, they're trying to keep with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but you know what? Every single day they're putting one nail after another into that coffin, and they will become, mark my words, the next Kodak of the 21st century. To quote myself from yesterday morning, they're supporting the wrong tech. We don't need hydrogen fuel cell vehicles for light or medium transport. They are the Betamax choice in a VHS race. No, they're betting on the wrong technology. Vehicle emissions account for about 20% of our carbon footprint in Australia. Exhaust fumes cost Australia billions of dollars in healthcare costs per year. We give billions of dollars to fossil fuel companies to keep fuel refineries open and to support a dying industry. And we give them a free ride in terms of avoided taxes to the tune of almost $28 billion per year. Imagine if we had actually taxed them properly, how much of a richer, better nation we would all be. Yet we have this piss-weak paper that offers up more charges to the tune of $250 million, providing potentially 1,000 new public charging stations, 400 level 2 destination charges, and up to 50,000 charges for households. All good things, kind of, but with a lackluster target of only 30% electric vehicle adoption rate by 2030, that's more than 20% behind New South Wales and Victoria, who are aiming for 50%. The federal government has made a fool of themselves. They didn't even bother with petrol emission standards to bring Australia in line with Euro 6 regulations, nor any ICE car ban either. No financial incentives to help motorists out of polluting vehicles and into ones that are clean and green on so many levels. So, to wrap this up, let me school our Prime Minister and his Minister for Emission Reductions on what good electric vehicle policy looks like and why we need to do it now. And for that, I'm going to use Scott Morrison's own words against him. If you want Australians to love their family sedan, farmers to rely on the trusted ute, and enable truck and train drivers to deliver goods from coast to coast, you need electric vehicles. By introducing emission and petrol standards, you make it impossible for car makers to send us garbage inefficient vehicles. To date, your lackluster policy has already cost Aussie motorists more than $600 per year due to those inefficient dirty cars being on our roads. Goodness, by some accounts, if you had done this back in 2016, you would have saved Australian motorists more than $1 billion. $1 billion. If you were to also mandate an internal combustion engine ban, you will signal to businesses and consumers what they should buy next. Car makers will be compelled to bring to our great country one of the many offerings, of which they have more than 100 right now. No ICE car ban means fewer choices for consumers. By legislating the ICE car ban, you will instantly start to decarbonise Australia, improve the air in which we all breathe, and decrease taxpayer funding through lower healthcare costs. It's a win for you, it's a win for me, and it's a win for Mother Earth. If you are true to your word about securing our future fuel and creating more than 2,600 new jobs, you need to get behind tech that is proven, better for our environment, and not a magical thing that is not yet created and solves that really awkward 15% gap. Like, dude, what the fuck were you thinking? What do we need? We need electric vehicles, and you must support the introduction at all levels and do away with fossil fuel companies. Do away with the generous tax breaks and encourage people into electric vehicles by scrapping import duty, abolish luxury car tax, waive GST, all things that federal government can actually do to save motorists thousands of dollars that get plonked on the purchase price of every single car. Do more by looking to Norway, who have actually provided since the early 1990s generous financial incentives and many more things to encourage people into electric cars. We have huge upfront costs for electric vehicles in Australia right now, and by doing these things you'll knock off nearly all $5,000 to $10,000 at least off the price of the cars, and people will see it, they go, it's got to be cheaper to run, it's got to be cheaper to service, and yeah, it costs the same as a Toyota whatever, and people will jump over or buy them little loads themselves. And as a top tip to you, Scotty, hey, how good are those Americans with that Build Back Better program? Over in the States, you can have up to $12,500 in government assistance to actually help buy the electric vehicle. So I know you love America, so just steal from them shamelessly. They're on the right track. Sadly, this paper is just garbage. The elephant in the room isn't just vehicles. It's about securing the electricity that will power these cars, homes, and industry. We need to invest in wind, solar, pumped hydro, battery storage, and more. Do all these proven policy points, and then maybe, just maybe, you might avert a global catastrophe and save not only our children's children, but also Mother Earth too. So, Scotty, where the bloody hell are you? And Angus, do better, mate.